Hi, welcome to the Fit to Push YouTube channel. Today we're going to break down how to make space in the pelvis for birth. Hint, there's no one single movement pattern that actually opens up the entire pelvis. Your pelvis is a multi-layered dynamic canal that requires multiple movement patterns to open up at three distinct levels. And what opens up one level actually closes another. The unique thing is that because I'm a pelvic PT and a birth doula, I combine my specialty knowledge in both fields to give you a comprehensive view of support and recovery for pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. Hi, I'm Dr. Vida Ahmad, a pelvic floor PT and birth doula and mom of two. If you're pregnant and trying to prepare for birth, you're in the right place. Go ahead and click subscribe and watch this video all the way. Follow me on Instagram for daily tips and tricks for making it through pregnancy pain-free, delivery, and postpartum recovery. In today's video, we're going to break down the three distinct layers of the pelvis and how to open them up biomechanically and apply them during labor so that you can have a smoother, more efficient labor and delivery. So let's begin. To understand how to make space in the pelvis, we need to first understand pelvic anatomy. So we have at the top here our pelvic inlet. This is where your baby will move down and engage into the pelvis late in pregnancy and during early labor. Then we have the mid pelvis here at the levels of the ischial spines and the coccyx or the tailbone at the bottom brim of the pubic symphysis. At this area, the mid pelvis, we have a lot of soft tissue, things like pelvic floor muscles and ligaments. So it's not only opening up the mid pelvis bony section, but also learning how to relax and let go of the pelvic floor muscles to let that baby rotate through that mid pelvis. Then we have the pelvic outlet, which is at the level of the ischial tuberosities, which opens up in this direction. So, which is when you are then pushing that baby out. Because these levels are all so structurally different in the pelvis, we need to master different movement patterns to open up different levels of the pelvis. So we first need to have pelvic external rotation to open up the pelvic inlet. We need to have mid pelvis movement, and we need to have pelvic internal rotation to open up the pelvic outlet. So let's dive in on how we can achieve those movements. To open up the pelvic inlet, we need to master pelvic external rotation. So movements like hip external rotation with abduction and anterior and posterior pelvic tilting will help us get there. That means we're moving our knee and our ankles or toes turned out and away from midline. So away from the body while the toes are turned out in this position. But we also have to manage the pelvis anterior and posterior pelvic tilt, making space in the front of the inlet and the back of the inlet. In pregnancy, we tend to live in a pelvic anteriorly tilt position all day long. So finding a posteriorly pelvic tilted position is going to be a little bit more difficult during pregnancy. So working on anterior and posterior pelvic tilt to make space in the front of the inlet as well as in the back of the inlet. During labor, a great way to access these movements is using a birthing ball. You can sit, knees nice and wide, toes out, and you can anteriorly pelvic tilt. So you're arching your low back, or you can posterior pelvic tilt, really tucking that tailbone underneath you, making space in the front and back of the pelvic inlet. Once the baby has entered the pelvic inlet, they need to then rotate through the mid pelvis. The secret to getting that baby to rotate through the mid pelvis is asymmetrical hip positions. So things like a lunge or a Captain Morgan. So that could look like using a birthing ball and getting into a lunge position and just opening up the pelvis. So the mid pelvis can be broken into two parts: the upper mid pelvis and the lower mid pelvis. And so to open up the upper mid pelvis, we need to stretch the groin or feel like we're stretching the groin area to get that baby to begin their pelvic rotation in the mid pelvis. So we are first then going to have our hip in abduction, external rotation, so turned out and away from midline, and we're going to rock into it, feeling a stretch in the groin. You can do this in this position here, feeling a stretch in this groin. You can do both sides, or you can have a chair or a sofa, plyometric box, and you're going to then turn away from the leg, feeling a stretch in the groin. And you can rock back and forth here as well. To open up the lower mid pelvis, we need to then stretch the glutes. So we need to then go ahead and get internal rotation and hip adduction. So that could look like similar to a Captain Morgan, but then we're going to turn our belly in towards that hip that's up. So you're stretching the lower part of the pelvic inlet, helping that baby finish their rotation through the mid pelvis. During labor and delivery, you can achieve this mid pelvis opening, both upper and lower simultaneously, by doing movements like shifting and swaying your hips and weight side to side. So that could look like first you're pushing and turning your belly into the leg that you're shifting into, and stretching the groin on the other side and reversing it, stretching the groin and stretching the glute at the same time. You know, during labor and delivery, sometimes babies don't tolerate being in a certain position for too long. So having multiple ways, multiple positions that you can get into the same movement patterns will help make labor and delivery more efficient, smoother, faster, and still help that baby rotate through that milk. Lastly, let's talk about opening up the pelvic outlet, which is the last portion for when it's at the pushing stage of delivery. Typically, moms are told lay on your back, grab behind your knees, pull, and push. That only allows you to get limited movement here. When you grab your knees and you pull knees out wide, you're actually closing off the pelvic outlet. Versus if we were to lay on our side, be on our hands and knees, or in any other position, you have freedom of movement to get that pelvic outlet and sacrum to tilt out of the way to make space and open up that pelvic outlet. In addition, if we were to activate your lat, you can pull elbows close to your side and pull. You're activating those lats, which anchor down the pelvis, allowing you to get a little bit more opening up that pelvic outlet. Understanding these mechanics are the exact reasons why I tell my clients that childbirth education will prepare your mind, but physical birth prep will train your body. You need your muscles, joints, and ligaments to access these positions and movement patterns during labor and delivery to efficiently optimize that baby being able to descend and rotate and exit the pelvis. If you're ready to stop guessing about birth prep and you want a pain-free, stronger pregnancy, a smoother and more efficient birth and delivery, let's work together. Go ahead and click my link below to book a 15-minute free consultation. We can chat about ways we can work together either virtually or in person. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow this YouTube channel for more relevant birth and pregnancy, birth, and postpartum content. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. I hope you enjoyed it.